Ankur, released in 1974, the first feature film directed by Shyam Benegal. Based on a true story, Ankur introduced Shabana Azmi to the Indian silver screen.
Today, nobody would believe that when Ankur was offered to me, there were whole sections of people who believed that I shouldn't do it because in the terminology of Hindi film cinema, she was an adulteress. And, they said that I'd be ruined and this would mean that I would be not...
It was really your first big film. So
yeah. And things like that. I mean, these were considerations. Today, one wouldn't think that, but at that time, that was a consideration. And I said, no, I just want to do the part, and I went ahead and did it. And let me tell you that even if I'm saying so myself, Satyajit Ray thought that that was one of the finest dramatic moments in acting in Indian cinema.
Ankur was also the first feature film shot by Govind Nihalani, who later went on to direct many path-breaking films. While making Ankur, both Shyam Benegal and Govind Nihalani aimed at strengthening parallel cinema and tried creating their own cinematic language. In the process, a few things got overlooked.
But when I saw Ankur, the thing that bothered me were the eyebrows. In fact, the thing that happened was that I sent my mother, not knowing really how Ankur was going to come, I wrote a letter to my mother and I said, Mommy, I think this is going to turn out to be some kind of Satyajit Ray film. And I sent her the stills and she wrote back to me and she said, it's all very wonderful, but your eyebrows are all wrong. And she was the first person who had pointed it out, but then I was already in continuity and we couldn't do anything about it. So it was just one of those things. So I think there are portions like this that I think it could have been maybe more raw.
The film's lead actors, Anantnag and Shabana, were both highly educated, city-bred individuals. Anantnag's character in the film is that of a landlord's educated son, so there was no problem. But for Shabana, playing an illiterate, Dalit, poverty-stricken village woman was a Herculean task.
I couldn't sit on my haunches, and Shyam in fact used to say, you're not going to sit at the dining table, you have to sit on the floor and eat. And one day I remember I was sitting on the floor and eating, and there's a group of young students, college students who would come, and they came and they looked around and they said, where's the heroine of the film? So I just looked at them and I said, she's ill, she hasn't come. So they said, what are you doing? I said, I'm playing the maidservant. Ah, okay. And they went away. And then Shyam said, okay, now you can come and sit on the dining table, because if you really fool them that you weren't the lead player, then it's all right. It was the first time that I'd ever been to a village. I had never been to a village before that. But we spent time before we actually started shooting, and they were very amused by me because I couldn't pound the chilies and stuff like that. And so slowly, but it was definitely a first.
Ankur was nominated for the Golden Bear at the Berlin International Film Festival. At home, it won 3 national awards. Ankur rated as the second best feature film. Sadhu Meher won the National Award for Best Actor, and Shabana Azmi, for her debut film, won the National Award for Best Actress. For that, it wasn't merely her acting prowess, but also her technical skills that came to her aid.
I'm a director's actor, and I have views, and I think a lot, and I'm a very hard-working actor. I'm really. I think the two things that I have, one is complete sincerity, and the other is very, very painfully hardworking, because I don't think that acting is an easy thing. I think that people who say that she takes to acting like a duck takes to water is all very well, because there are certain people who are gifted and they have talent, and that's wonderful. But what do you do with that gift is the important thing, and especially for somebody who has been professionally trained. I have no patience for people who say that she's an instinctive actor and so she's a better actor than this person who's got technical skill. For heaven's sake, technical skill is what you add to the talent that you already have. And a thing like acting is such an impossible demand is made on you, because the basic thing that acting demands of you is that you speak previously rehearsed lines as though they are just being invented at that moment. Now that by itself is the most impossible demand that you can make. In order to do that, you have to have a degree of technical skill whereby, whether you are recreating moments of despair or of pure joy, or what is called spontaneity, it is definitely simulated spontaneity, and that's the ability that an actor has, that you create the impression of spontaneity, but it actually doesn't exist. You see, so it's just too easy. It's a lazy actor who is just an instinctive actor and nothing beyond that. And I have a lot of respect for people who understand how difficult acting is and give it all they've got, rather than just say कि ये हमको खुदा से मिला और हम ये कर देंगे बस. तेरे दिल में काला था, इस वास्ते डरा ना तू. तेरी शान मिट्टी में मिले. तू बड़ा आदमी अपने घर का होएगा समझे. हम तेरे खरीदे गुलाम नहीं हैं. हमको तेरा काम नहीं होना, तेरा पैसा नहीं होना, तेरा कुछ नहीं होना. सब अपने मुर्दे के साथ ले जा तू. You might be the best actor in the world, but if you haven't taken your light and if you haven't reached your mark, especially a cinema actor, it's finished. It's not all about being inspired in a way which you forget everything else. You have to be inspired. You use technical ability to facilitate that process of being inspired, because you cannot wait for inspiration to come forever and ever. You use technical prowess for that, and then you allow it to happen, but you're also hitting your mark. You're also taking your light. You're also seeing so many things. There have been instances, when I have started walking and realized simultaneously that the camera has been slightly slow in starting, if it's a parallel track shot, for instance. And then as I'm speaking my lines, I'm also determining, shall I cut the shot, or now the camera has made up, so let me carry on with it. And all this is also happening, and yet I am being extremely earnest and honest when I'm saying my lines. अब मेरे सामने से बुत बन के खड़े होने से क्या होगा? इतना भी नहीं कि आके माफी मांग लो, सॉरी कह दो. शुक्र है जा रहे हो तुम, छुटकारा मिलेगा सबको. That kind of technique you can learn also. I mean, that is techniques that you can also learn through discipline and through doing a lot of work. For that, you don't really have to be trained as an actor. You have to be trained as an actor to facilitate the inside process.
After completing her course in acting in FTII, Shabana graduated in 1973. FTII, or Film and Television Institute of India, was established in 1960 to impart formal training in filmmaking and television program production. Roshan Taneja pioneered formal training in acting by setting up FTII's acting department in 1963. Some of his students include Jaya Bhaduri, Nasiruddin Shah, Om Puri, Shatrughan Sinha, Mithun Chakravarti and Shabana Azmi.
In fact, what was fascinating for me at the institute was I saw people who were so painfully shy that I was amazed that they had been even selected for the acting course.
For the acting course?
For the acting course. And then I saw Taneja Saab, my acting teacher, push them into parts through improvisations where suddenly they became different people, and because he was very quick to praise a lot of students, and he would never praise me. And so one day I went up to him and I said, "Am I not good enough? Why don't you say it?" And he said, "You need to do even better." And which was good, because he would pay personal attention to all the actors. I really vastly enjoyed being at the Film Institute. You know, in improvisations you have somebody who's taken as a helper. It's my improvisation and I take you, or I take AB.
I'm giving you the cue
to help me. Yeah, whatever. I mean, there's a situation that is given to us.
That's right.
And then I just tell you that is your relationship with me, and the problem starts.
Like this interview.
Yeah, just invented at that moment, really.
That's right. Yeah.
So I was always taken as the understanding friend, the intelligent wife, the supporting partner, always very good, lovely, noble parts, which one felt really great about. And then suddenly Taneja sir once put me in a really nasty part where I was playing against my stepdaughter, with whom I have a competitive relationship. And through that improvisation, I could not believe the amount of malice that I was capable of, and I was so nasty to that girl.
You didn't know it was in you?
I didn't know. It was a discovery. I mean, so you see, it's very wonderful to discover reservoirs of nobility within you. But when you come in touch with the fact that you're also just as evil, that's a very frightening experience, you know. And that's the wonderful thing about acting, that it makes you...
Why was it wonderful? I mean, I'm sure you didn't want to know you were nasty. Or you could be nasty.
I think what it did is gave you a much more realistic picture of who you were. And at that moment unsettling, but definitely leading to a much greater understanding.
That you're not just a goody-goody person.
That you're not a goody-goody person, and that you have all these reserves within you. And that's why also understanding that if you can have it, then most certainly the characters that you are playing must have it. And so that's why it teaches you the discipline of learning to read between the lines, and also trying to understand, okay, this is what it's saying, but what are the other things that we need to look at, you know? And all that happening unobtrusively, not somebody sitting on your head and saying, this is what you need to do with it.
Yeah, but I would think that if this, you know, you're given this role of being the nasty, you must have been acting it. Why did it have to be something within you which was actually nasty?
Because when you are working in an improvisation, then the actor is pulling out from within herself. The actor is her own instrument, you know, the sitar.
You're not given lines or anything.
You're not given lines or anything. It's coming from within you and within your own experience.
You're creating the character.
Absolutely. And and especially it's not lines that have been written for you. It's coming from within you, and the actor is really her own instrument. And for instance, for a musician, it also depends on how well the sitar is tuned, as well as the skill of her fingers. But for an actor, it is you and your body that is its own instrument, and so it is a process of discovery, most certainly.
Now, what about people who don't go to school, to professional school, and just have that talent and use it, you know?
Oh yes, a lot of them do that, and do it extremely successfully.
I think most people who are in Indian cinema have never gone to film school.
But the demands that Indian cinema make are not really demands on acting. It's demands of an alternative reality, you know. So
not always. I mean, if you look at some of Meena Kumari's roles, for example, or Waheeda Rahman's, or Nutan's roles, you know, we're talking about a different era. I mean, they were wonderful actresses, and I don't think they were trained at all.
They were wonderful actresses in the genre that they were working, which was wonderful. But I would like to see that if they were moved away from that genre, would they be, if it was much more demanding? Because see, we have very simplistic roles written in Indian cinema. We don't really get into the depths of any kind of complexity. We have no such thing as complexity. Everything is all quite linear. So I don't know that lacking in discipline, I'm not lacking in talent, most certainly very talented, but I wonder whether they would be able to live up to the demands of a much more complex thing, written differently, worked out differently. I'm not very sure. I mean, they can only benefit from that training process, which is not to say that people who are not trained actors are not very good. There are lots and lots of very, very good.
Are you saying they would have done better if they'd been to school?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind. I'm a great believer of of training. Great belief.
किस मुंह से मेरी तुलना तुमने दूसरी बहुओं से की? जो कुछ उनके पास है वो मेरे पास। वो सब क्या दे सके तुम मुझे? मुझे माँ कहकर पुकारने वाला। छोटी बहू।
What would it have done to them? I mean, they had those roles which they played according to
for
what we
parts,
remember.
For those parts, they were
perfection,
great.
okay?
For those parts, they were wonderful. But that's not enough in your acting arsenal, so to speak. You need to go beyond that. I really wish to say that what I have to qualify as an actor is the barest minimum. Like, for instance, if you're a writer, then you need to know the alphabet to qualify as a writer. That's the first thing that you need to know.
Yeah.
So whatever I have done till today is really the barest minimum. And so it embarrasses me that so easily the word the best is used for me. And it's only because of...
No, from the alphabet you've gone to a vocabulary. All right. Now you have a extensive vocabulary, which I would develop as a writer.
I don't.
And you would have a vocabulary as an actor.
I just have a vocabulary. I don't think that it's extensive. Or if I have it, I haven't had the chance to use it in poetry to the extent that I have. I have knowledge. I think I understand acting, but I don't think that I have been given very many chances to use the information that I have because of the fact of working in the kind of cinema that I do. We have, particularly within mainstream cinema, just representative acting. So if you say, it means you're happy, and if you cry copious tears, it means you're sad, and it's really just happening at that level.
No, but you particularly, have had the most terrific roles. I mean, so, I think you've had the pick of roles.
Yeah, I have been very fortunate.
So why are you then saying that you've not been challenged?
I have been very fortunate that all that has led me to understand acting to the extent that I do. But today, I think I can do more.
Observing people and situations is indispensable for actors. It enables them to grasp and realistically depict characters with diverse emotions and behaviors. But what happens to an actor who is also a human?
Shirley MacLaine once told me that she goes into a party and just automatically sits in the place that has the best light, and automatically while she's at the dining table doesn't drop her spoon with a dialogue, so it becomes so much a part of you that it is a frightening process. Once what happened was that I saw somebody who had died, and it was the first time that I had seen a dead body in front of me. And the first thought that struck me, this person was close to me and I really felt for her. And it was the first time I was seeing a body, and the first thing that struck me was, my God, her jaw has dropped completely because the muscles sag, and I have never played death like that. And then it frightened me that that's the first thought that came to my mind. I remember I was with an aunt who had lost her husband, and she was talking to me about it. This was about a year later. And as she was talking, very, very normally about the circumstances that led to his death, I started noticing that while she was talking completely plain-faced, her hand started making these circular motions. And as she was getting more and more emotional, the hand was, starting to make these circles more and more fiercely. And then suddenly at one point, her eyes just filled with tears and she started crying. And I loved this aunt, and I felt very badly for her. But at the same time, I was saying, wow, isn't that wonderful? That's what I should do. And my eyes are filling up with tears even as I'm saying this to you, Anil. So it is so simultaneous that you really don't know when the observer takes over and when the actual person. And so you start looking at yourself and treating yourself as highly suspect. Who are you? What are you all about? There was a period that I really became very, very suspicious of myself because I was looking at myself through these glasses. After that, having understood that and also understanding that that is also me, I came to terms with it. Now it's something that doesn't bother me. There was a period when I was bothered with it, and not anymore.
उसने बुलाया होगा, जहर चुपके से दवा जान के खाया होगा.
Shabana Azmi is the daughter of Kaifi Azmi, a poet, lyricist, writer and actor. He is remembered among those who changed the tenor and vocabulary of Hindi film songs. He created a fresh wave of Hindi lyrics that lasted for decades to come.
कोई ये कैसे बताए कि वो तन्हा क्यों है.
Shabana's mother was a veteran stage actress associated with IPTA or Indian People's Theatre Association.
क्या करूं बीबी, बुढ़ापा है, आंखों में जाला है ना. वो मकबूल जंग बहादुर है ना, बुढ़ती वक्त में उनको शादी का शौक कर रहा है. ये फोटो उनके वास्ते है.
You know what interests me is my mother. I've learned many things from my mother, and because everybody says, you know, acting is in the silences and acting is in the parts that you're not talking, and all that is very well, but it's actually in the parts where you are talking, because to make those words completely real, that my mother taught me. You know, she always says that, you know, a part, if it's well written, half the work is done, and I hadn't thought of it like that. I'd always thought it's in the silences and it's in the face and things like that. My mother's a very good stage actor, really good.
Yeah.
And I used to always feel that she had given up her career because of us. And
To bring up the family.
yeah, to bring up the, because she's a very good housekeeper. She's a really good housekeeper, and the fact is that it was absolutely imperative for me that when my exams were on, my mother just had to be in the house. She couldn't leave the house when my exams were on. It was a very neurotic child. So I said, you know, do you feel that you made this sacrifice and it wasn't worth it? And she said, what sacrifice? I said, you know, you give up your acting career. She said, I did no such thing. I just didn't like the parts that were offered to me. And I said, really? And she said, of course, that wasn't a thought in my head, but I didn't like the parts that were offered. And also because acting had become a burden for me, because she's the kind of person who believes that when you're playing a particular part, then if your vein is cut open, the blood that should come out should be that of the part. She belongs to that school, you know. And so she played some very heavy parts, and that it started playing on her nerves, and, you know, she was a nervous wreck, and she just didn't do it for those reasons. So my mother is, I think, well aware of herself as a feminist, but her family is very important, and that's perfectly possible.
What would you have done? Suppose you had children.
I think my life would have taken a completely different
Would you have
course.
given up acting?
My life would have taken a completely different course, because I think that I would, considering that I got married when I was 34, obviously I'd be old when I had children, and that would make me, I'd be a neurotic mother, I think. Very concerned about health and things like that in the initial stages. And I don't know whether I would have given up acting. I don't think one can ever give up acting, because an actor is an actor. You know, you don't forget it, like you don't forget cycling. But maybe I would have chosen not to work for a bit. I don't know. I really don't.
When do you think he'll be ready to give a concert?
Has he talked to you about this?
No, he hasn't. I'm speaking to you about it.
Nanak, I think you should explain to your mother. I thought she understood, but apparently not.
Explain what? I asked when you're going to play a concert. Oh, I know. I'm just ignorant, of course. Not a cultural person or a music teacher, just your mother. It's what we've been planning and working for all these years.
You were saying that you were neurotic, your mother played neurotic roles. Is this something common with all actors? That
I think so.
That basically, I mean, everyone says that actors have to be insecure. Is that right? And secondly, that they are a bit of neurotics.
You're being very gentle and kind when you're saying they're a bit neurotic. I think they're completely neurotic. The demand is too much, you know. At the click of a camera, actor, emotion number 59, out, chalo, nikalo, camera off hua, emotion vapas, go back to being a normal person. I mean, it's really impossible. There have been times when I've done completely emotionally draining things, and emotionally, you know, if you cry, then you've released yourself. You've already had the cathartic experience. But when For instance, I remember there's a scene in Arth where I beg Kulbhushan and I tell him to give me one more chance.
जो कमी थी, कमजोरी थी, कोशिश करूंगी वो ना रहे. एक मौका और दे दो इंदर.
And that I'm feeling very frightened and don't leave me. And that to me is the tougher scene. Although in Arth everybody talks about the telephone scene, to me the more difficult scene is the one where I beg him, because I'm not to cry in that scene, but it is an assault on my dignity, because I'm begging, and begging is not a nice emotion to come in touch with, and that is coming from within the recesses of Shabana Azmi, right? And to hold myself together and not to cry till such time as the scene. And then when I walked out, I just cried forever. I mean, I was completely finished.
Really?
And then, completely finished. And then to come home and then to start playing completely normally is not possible. Is not possible.
जब तुम में इतनी हिम्मत है कि तुम सारी दुनिया के सामने अपनी रखेल के हाथ में हाथ डाल के भरी महफिल में आ सकते हो.
So, I mean, it's extremely important how supportive your family is and how much they understand that. But I also think that actors sometimes seek refuge and get the chance to behave badly, you know, which is not to be tolerated at all, because that kind of indulgence I don't like, because I do believe that actors need discipline, and without discipline they just let themselves go awry. And so I am a firm believer in discipline. I also laugh at my own intensity. I take myself not seriously. I do all that to see that the core of what I have and the integrity is maintained, and I don't start believing in my own myth. That's very important.
हमारे शास्त्रों के अनुसार पत्नी को अपने पति की सेवा में कभी माँ का रूप धारण करना चाहिए, कभी बहन का रूप धारण करना चाहिए, और बिस्तर में रंडी का रूप धारण करना चाहिए, जो ये पूरा कर रही है.
There was this film that they were doing, Marathon Man, with John Schlesinger, and there was Dustin Hoffman, this great method actor, and Laurence Olivier, coming from the English theatre, thinking that acting is about doing a job and one should be able to do the job well. And Dustin Hoffman had to play a person who has been tortured and stuff like that, and he actually lay on slabs of ice. He actually didn't eat for 2 days. He went running, and at the time of the shot he fainted. And of course everybody got very concerned, and a very sympathetic Olivier walked up to him and said, "Son, now that you've tried everything, why don't you try acting for a change?" And completely demolished poor Dustin Hoffman. But of course it is a combination of both. Absolutely. You have to be an observer. That is the demand of acting. You have to be tuned finely enough to know कि ये तार को छेड़ा तो ये सुर निकल के आएगा उसके अंदर से. That's what you have to do.
That, forgive me for saying so, seems artificial.
Not at all. Not at all. It's not artificial at all. I think there's a lot of confusion about what acting is. Acting is not about being, although you use that term and you say acting is about being, but you cannot be, because it is a simulated situation in which you have to create the feeling of being. There is a line there, and without that discipline, if you just completely get carried away, then you're not a good enough actor. Then you're somebody who has the ability to feel intensely, but then you don't have the skill to be able to restrain it, hold it back, hone it, encourage it till such time as what is required. For instance, even something that is required in a 75 close-up, the kind of emotion that I would have to play it differently when it is played in long shot, you know, or with a 40 lens. I would have to, definitely. It's the same emotion, it's the same scene, it's a different lens.
Fire was released in 1996 at the Toronto International Film Festival, or TIFF. It was released in India in 1998. It is considered to be the first mainstream Hindi film to depict individual sexual choices.
Two tandoori rotis ready. Number 22 ready.
Fire is possibly the only film that I think, I wouldn't say totally is a word I don't use, but I am satisfied with my work. in that film, because when I see my work, I only see the faults in it. I just feel this was wrong and that was wrong, and I'm very, very critical of my work. But Fire is a film that I think that I've made the least number of mistakes in.
Agra is not only famous for the Taj Mahal, it's also very famous for the lunatic asylum. Maybe that's where you'll end up.
Are you going to be home tonight?
Maybe.
Fire, the first installment of the Elements trilogy by Indo-Canadian filmmaker Deepa Mehta. It is partly based on Lihaf, or The Quilt, a short story by Ismat Chugtai, an Indian film writer and filmmaker.
You must give a chance to Sita. Your duty as husband demands that you do. I need you.
Not tonight.
Fire was challenging because there was every chance that she could be played as a victim. And the fact that I think it was the actor's contribution, apart from, of course, the director. I mean, I was really, really helped both by Deepa and also by Giles Nutkins, the cameraman, because if you see the camera, firstly, it has this thing called the PV dolly, which I'd never worked with, which is such a liberating thing for an actor, because it just walks around with you literally, and so the actor never has to adjust to the camera. It's the camera that's adjusting.
I'm lucky to have such a good family.
Swamiji says the only reason to have a sexual relationship is to have sons that will carry on the family name.
And he's also lit me in a way where he's got a lot of emphasis on the light, on the eyes.
Yes.
And because it's such an introverted kind of part.
Did we do anything wrong?
What I saw in the bedroom is a sin in the eyes of God and man.
There's no word in our language that can describe what we are, how we feel for each other.
Is that Sita's fault? All these new ideas in your head?
Focusing on a lesbian relationship, when Ismat Chugtai wrote Lihaf in 1942, it led to an uproar and an obscenity trial. Ismat Chugtai had to defend herself in the Lahore court. More than half a century later, Fire, based on Lihaf, was released. But nothing much had changed in Indian society.
I think very comforted by the fact that I had to never fake. You know what I find? I want to die when in Hindi cinema, if you see, Anil, you and I will never talk like that. You will talk into the camera and I will stand behind you and I will also talk to your ear.
Okay.
It kills me. I mean, I feel that no conversation is possible and I just want to collapse and find myself completely incapable.
Like we should talk like this. We should look
It's completely crazy. And so over here, when I was talking to Kulbhushan, I was talking to Nandita, I was just talking to them, and so it becomes so easy that I don't have to say कि ऐसे थोड़े से बात कर लो क्योंकि camera यहाँ कर रहा है. So I think I was greatly helped by them. Then I also thought all my co-stars were wonderful. I thought Nandita was wonderful, I think.
I think you're a pompous fool. I desire Sita. I desire her warmth, her compassion. I desire to live again.
You had that before.
Yeah. I think the strength of that part was that it was very, very, very restrained, and that it was dignified, and that it wasn't played like a victim. So I was definitely challenged in Fire, and I think I managed to rise up to that challenge. But what next? And now I want to do a part that's way over the top, you know, way over the top, and I want to make that real.
इस भवन में मनुष्य डर से नहीं, लालच से आता है। खजाने की लालच से। हमारे पुरखों के वस्त्र और आभूषण तुम लालचों के लिए केवल धन है, धन। एक सदी से मैं अपने पुरखों के सम्मान की रक्षा कर रही हूं, और जब तक ये पृथ्वी, आकाश, जल, वायु और अग्नि है, हमारे सम्मान से हमें कोई पृथक नहीं कर पाएगा.
That I would want to do, and I would like to, I think, do a historical part, because what intrigues me is the way language is used. I think because we really don't have any clear ideas of how people in that era spoke. We have this very strange language that we use, and so there is a certain sort of I think, a completely false way of how
Sohrab
people
Modi
spoke.
talking,
हाँ, बिल्कुल, उस तरह
Prithviraj
का,
Kapoor, that
मुगल आजम
kind.
तरीके का. And I would like to discover a way of speech.
हमने तुमसे हमेशा सख्ती बरती, इस खौफ में कि हम पर नाइंसाफी का इल्जाम न लगे, क्योंकि हम सिर्फ तुम्हारी नहीं, इस कोठे की हर लड़की की अम्मा है. हमें माफ कर देना.
Just go back to Ankur and come to Fire. All right. Now you've had tremendous amount of experience. You've been through so many roles. You're also older. You thought about acting. You've been through life's own experiences. So you have matured as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So surely that changes the way you work.
Huh? Of course it changes. Yeah. Of course it changes. And firstly, because as you grow older, and more you realize that the actor must have an insatiable curiosity about the human condition, which is what Uta Hagen says. Yeah. But apart from that, your resources must come from life itself. Yeah. And so you start connecting. You cannot be an island into yourself. You have to start wondering about why things are the way they are. You have to walk outside of your life and get connected actually to life. Yeah. That then, depending on how much of yourself you invest in issues or things or awareness outside of yourself, will enrich your personality, which will help the part that you play. Yeah. So that all that happens most certainly, and has happened in my case. And so I think directors look forward to my participation, because they hope that I am also going to bring that to the part.
यही चाहिए ना दिल को अपने बर्थडे पे मामा को याद है बेटा.
But ultimately, which part of this is going to be utilized for the part that I'm playing or for the camera is decided by the director. Yeah. So I'm bringing a history, but how much of that history they need, because I'm bringing a history for many things, and it might not be required for one particular part. And in fact, the interesting thing is the conflict that it creates are my political beliefs and my political values, because as an actor, my discipline is that I should just be able to prefix the words if I were. A cow, Mother Teresa, a vamp, and princess, an AIDS victim, anything. And with just instantaneously I should be able to say if I were, and I should have a certain kind of naivete which would make me believe in this world. Now unfortunately, because I have such strong political beliefs, I can't do that, and that is a limitation for a professionally trained actor, and I've fought against that. I've fought against that, and I realize that is a limitation, but I can't do everything, and so unfortunately I have to live with that limitation. And so I cannot play a part which is, for instance, suggesting that women are subservient, or it's better for them to be in a second-grade position, or
you can't or you won't.
I won't. I can't, meaning it's a choice I cannot make, because it is just something that I cannot. I would play a victim if, by the sheer fact of her being a victim, such a sense of revulsion would be created in the viewer, that the viewer would feel that this thing must stop. Then I would play her. Or I would play her if she's a victim, and then she at least makes a movement towards that change.
कुछ नहीं कर सकता ये मर्द. बढ़िए महान जी, ऐसे ही सही, कम से कम एक बार आपका ताकत भोगने का सुख तो मिल जाए हमको.
In 1997, Shabana Azmi was nominated to the Rajya Sabha, the upper house of the Indian Parliament. During her tenure, she remained one of the most active members and raised her voice on issues close to her.
India, being the kind of pluralistic society it is, India is a country that lives in several centuries simultaneously. We have people living back to back from the 19th to the 21st century, and her people at any given time and space encapsulate all the contradictions that come from being a multi-religious, multicultural, multilingual, multi-ethnic society. And unless we guard her pluralism, there's no hope. It cannot work any other way. And so that's something that really needs to be guarded. And it's it's one of the tenets of our constitution, one of the pillars of our constitution. And so one has to be really front-footed about that. So that's always be a platform that I will speak on. I'm very concerned about the urban poor. I'm concerned about women's issues, and I think that I do not think that I have any magic wand. I don't think that I'm going to go and change everything in the Rajya Sabha. But I do think that it is an opportunity to bring the voice of the people that I work with at the grassroots to the people who form policies. And I hope, I don't know whether I can, but I hope that I will be able to do this, because I think that there are lots of people who are concerned and there are lots of people who care, but I think there's a gap between those who are actually working at the grassroots and those who are forming the policies. And I think that gap needs to be filled.
Shabana, I wish you luck in that. I started with a compliment, I'll end with one, which is that we need more people like you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
पुराना मानो बात का ये प्यार है गिला नहीं.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, press the bell icon and stay entertained.